when I found out my domineering CEO brother was simping for the female lead outside. I hugged my little blanket and slept at the villain's doorstep. As he was about to send me back, he noticed the wounds on my wrist. "Keith actually abused you." I nodded drowsily. After my brother got dumped by the female lead yet again, he finally remembered there was still a little troublemaker at home. By then, the villain had already started attending parent-teacher meetings at my kindergarten on my behalf. My brother nearly fainted. I was only gone for a month. Not dead. Why don't you recognize me anymore? Hello, everyone. Welcome to my channel. Subscribe us to read wonderful novels every day. Now the story begins. The villain coaxed me with a lollipop. "Sweetie, how about getting a new brother?" At the age of 3, I unintentionally had a dream. I realized my older brother was just one of the female lead's devoted admirers. He would lower his principles endlessly for her sake. In the end, he willingly offered up his family fortune as a wedding gift for the female lead. He took me to live in a 30-square-meter cheap apartment, listening to the couple next door argue loudly 3 times a day. To change this outcome, with my limited intelligence, I made a series of efforts, including but not limited to bursting into loud sobs when the female lead called him late at night saying she was scared alone, trying to keep him from leaving. When the female lead had stomach pain during her period, I deliberately spit up milk to make him change my clothes. During her graduation performance, I learned to sing, "Only Brother is Good in the World," to move him, but I forgot. My family has a nanny, but the female lead is an orphan. My brother left me with the nanny to comfort me. Seeing the water in his brain increasing, I solemnly decided to get myself a new brother. So I picked a young man from the neighboring villa area. He's the villain, also my brother's arch-rival, who loves to trip up the female lead simps. Cunning and deceitful, just like a dog training master. And he did indeed have a border collie. Once, my brother bought fruit for the female lead and forgot me at the fruit shop. He happened to be there too, so I took an apple from a nearby shelf and handed it to his border collie. In return, he had his dog carry me home. I want him to punish my brother. Yesterday was my 3rd birthday, and the nanny specially dressed me in a princess dress while waiting for my brother to come home. But he went to watch a movie with the female lead instead. The nanny comforted me, saying that when Laura becomes my sister-in-law, there will be 2 people to dote on me. But I knew she could never become my sister-in-law. The female lead is destined for the male lead. So, I decided to run away from home, to put some pressure on my simp brother. After nightfall, I successfully avoided the nanny who was gossiping on the phone in the bathroom and crawled out through the dog hole in the wall. Holding my little blanket, I walked barefoot toward the neighboring villa area. 20 minutes later, I stood at Morris's doorstep. This villa was even bigger than mine, but the dim lighting made it look cold and unwelcoming. I took a deep breath, spread the small blanket on the doorstep, and curled up to lie down. Just as I was about to fall asleep, I suddenly heard barking and footsteps from inside the door. The door opened, and a slipper nearly stepped on my face. "What the hell?" Maurice's voice abruptly stopped. I rubbed my eyes and sat up, meeting a pair of startled eyes. Under the moonlight, his tall figure loomed over me, dressed in a robe with the collar slightly open, revealing delicate collarbones. "What are you doing here?" Maurice frowned and asked. Before I could answer, a black and white shadow darted out from beside his legs and enthusiastically pounced toward me. Milo sniffed around my face with his wet nose, wagging his tail so vigorously it seemed about to take flight. "Milo," Maurice scolded. "This isn't a kitten. You can't keep it." Milo whimpered pitifully but stubbornly placed his front paws on my shoulders and began licking my face clean. Giggling, I seized the moment to scramble up and immediately clung to Maurice's leg. "Big brother, carry me." He froze all over, as if someone had hit the pause button on him. Milo seized the opportunity, grabbed the back of my collar with his teeth, and started dragging me into the house. "Hey, stupid dog, let go." Maurice tried to stop him, but Milo had already successfully dragged me into the entryway. Taking advantage of the moment, I released my collar and scrambled onto Maurice using both hands and feet. "Get down," he said coldly. I shook my head and buried my face in the crook of his neck. "Margaret is cold." Maurice's body stiffened even more, but he didn't forcibly pull me off. Milo circled excitedly nearby, occasionally nudging my foot with his head as if saying, "Look at me. Look at me. Keith knows you're here," he asked. I pouted, tears welling up instantly. Big brother doesn't want Margaret anymore. The sleeve slipped down, inadvertently revealing the bruise on my wrist. Maurice's expression changed immediately as he grabbed my wrist. "What happened here?" I timidly shrank my neck. "Margaret hurts. Brother is angry. Actually." I bumped into it myself when I crawled under the table to reach for the ball. When my brother came back, he got really upset and blamed the nanny for not watching me properly. The nanny was indeed negligent. She was busy scrolling through fun short videos. Maurice's face was terrifyingly dark. "Keith did this." I didn't answer, just lowered my head, playing the victim to perfection. Maurice took a deep breath, seemingly suppressing his anger. At this moment, Milo came over carrying his food bowl, placed it in front of me, and then looked at Maurice with expectant eyes. Maurice looked at his dog speechlessly. "It's 2 a.m. Milo stood stubbornly without moving. I patted my stomach. "Margaret is hungry." Milo immediately picked up a piece of dog food and spat it at our feet, wagging his tail even more enthusiastically. Maurice rubbed his temples. "I'll go heat up some milk for you." He pointed warningly at Milo. "Don't you dare hide her in your doghouse." Milo tilted his head, putting on an innocent expression that said, "I have no idea what you're talking about." 10 minutes later, Maurice returned to the living room carrying 2 plates of milk. Milo immediately perked up his ears, his tail tapping out a cheerful rhythm on the floor. "Sit," he commanded. Milo immediately sat up straight, front paws together, like a well-trained soldier. I blinked my eyes and followed suit with a woof. Sitting up straight with my little body, Maurice's hand froze midair, nearly spilling the milk. "What are you doing?" "Table manners." I tilted my head, mimicking Milo's expectant expression. "At home, the nanny always taught me like this." Maurice furrowed his brows into a knot. "She made you bark like a dog." I nodded, recalling. She said it was aristocratic etiquette. Once when I didn't call her, she complained to my brother, saying I ate with my hands. At this point, I suddenly grew melancholy. That day, my brother was particularly angry. At dinner, he deliberately put down his chopsticks and grabbed a chicken leg to feed me. With greasy hands, he pinched my cheek. "My dear Margaret can eat however she wants. My brother is good to me, but he doesn't have time to change my nanny for me. Just because Laura said I've grown attached to this nanny, and if we get a new one, I'd definitely feel uncomfortable with strangers." And later, he became increasingly busy and never had meals with me again. Maurice placed the milk in front of me and Milo, his face terrifyingly gloomy. "Is that nanny still working at your place?" I took a small sip of milk. Auntie also taught me how ponies drink water. "Do you want to see, Big Brother?" His thumb gently brushed over the bruise on my wrist, his voice almost inaudible. "Keith, that bastard." After finishing the milk, I hesitantly raised my face. "Big Brother, my own brother doesn't want me anymore. Could you take me in? I don't eat much." In my dream, Maurice also had a younger sister, but she was born with congenital heart disease and later passed away prematurely due to negligence. He didn't even have the chance to spoil her. After this incident, his parents got divorced. Coincidentally, my parents also divorced. Theirs was a marriage of convenience. And after the divorce, neither wanted custody, each going off to find true love. Otherwise, I wouldn't have been left with my brother. Maurice furrowed his brows into a tight knot. He looked down at me clinging stubbornly to his leg, then at Milo circling around excitedly, the veins on his temples faintly pulsing. "I'm usually very busy," he said. rubbing his forehead. I don't have time to take care of a child. I immediately raised 3 tiny fingers. Margaret will be very good. I can eat by myself, sleep by myself, and play by myself. Milo, as if understanding our conversation, suddenly dashed into the living room, dragging his enormous dog bed with great effort to my feet. Then he barked proudly, his tail wagging like a propeller. Maurice looked at it expressionlessly. She's not a kitten. You can't sleep with her. You'll crush her to death. Milo whimpered in protest, nudging my hand with his wet nose as if to say, I wouldn't. Finally, he let out a long sigh. If you don't cause trouble, I can reluctantly let you stay for a few days. Thank you, brother. Thank you, Milo. I hugged Milo and planted a big kiss on him. Milo was even more excited than I was, running around the house with my small blanket in his mouth, until he was frozen in place by Maurice's single glance. Sleep, Maurice said as he grabbed the back of my collar, lifting me into the guest room like a kitten. I obediently crawled under the covers and watched him turn off the light and leave. The moment the door closed, the entire room plunged into darkness. The wall clock ticked away, while outside, the tree shadows swayed, casting eerie silhouettes on the wall. I clutched the blanket tightly, finally unable to resist climbing out of bed. At the end of the hallway, a sliver of light seeped from beneath Maurice's door. I gently pushed the door open and saw Maurice leaning against the headboard, reading documents, the bedside lamp casting a warm glow on his sharply defined profile. Milo immediately noticed me and wagged his tail happily as he ran over. What's wrong now? He asked without looking up. I twisted the corner of the blanket and whispered, Margaret is afraid of the dark. Maurice finally looked up and saw me standing at the door, trembling. His expression softened slightly under the light, but his tone remained stiff. Still afraid of the dark at 3 years old? Auntie said if I don't sleep, monsters will come and take me away at night. I exclaimed in terror. Maurice stared at me for a full 10 seconds before finally closing the file in defeat. Come here. My eyes lit up as I hugged my blanket and trotted over. Milo was faster than me and had already jumped onto the bed, claiming the best spot. Not here. Maurice pointed to the long sofa in the corner. You sleep over there. I obediently crawled onto the sofa, wrapping myself in the blanket like a silkworm cocoon. Milo let out a dissatisfied whine but still jumped off the bed and lay down on the carpet beside me to keep watch. Maurice turned off the main lights, leaving only a small night light on. Although I wanted to put some pressure on my brother to make him care about me again, but I never expected that after being away from home for a whole day, he still hasn't noticed I'm gone. He took Laura on a business trip. Maurice sent someone to check. The aunt saw that I was missing, and her first reaction wasn't to tell my brother, but to avoid responsibility and run away. Good. His cold smile was eerily reminiscent of a cartoon villain. Is the Riley family currently negotiating the real estate project in the east of the city? The assistant adjusted his glasses. The signing is tomorrow, before midnight tonight. I want this project to be mine. Maurice threw the broken pen into the trash. I'll pay double the penalty fee. I was counting on my fingers to figure out what double the amount was when he suddenly lifted me up and placed me on the desk. He braced his hands on either side of me, his eyes narrowing dangerously. Kid, does your brother usually treat you like this? Milo was anxiously pawing at the edge of the desk and barking. I took the chance to use his paw as a handrail. Big brother is just busy. Actually, before he met Laura, he would still take me to Disneyland and ride the Ferris wheel with me. On my 2nd birthday, he even dressed up in a JoJo mascot costume to celebrate with me. Maurice's expression grew even more terrifying. 3 days later, a card suddenly appeared in my little backpack. Maurice was braiding my hair, though not very skillfully, when he casually remarked, Keith lost the 3rd project, but the profits are in there. Wow. I held up the shiny bank card. How many cheese sticks can I buy with this? His hand froze. That's what you're focusing on. Of course. I tilted my head to look at him. Then, can I afford a Peppa Pig watch? Maurice choked. At market price. You could buy the entire cheese stick factory and eat for a lifetime. My mouth formed an oh shape. This is like a dream come true. Maurice is no villain at all. He's Santa Claus. Hide it well. Maurice tucked the card back into my little dinosaur-printed backpack. This is your wedding savings. I blurted out, having just learned the phrase from a TV show. Can I buy Milo a chew stick with it? Maurice's mouth twitched. Do as you please. I suddenly pounced and planted a loud kiss on his cheek. Maurice froze instantly, not even reacting when I tugged his six-figure tie out of shape. Maurice is the best. I dangled from his neck, swinging, even better than a real brother. The tips of his ears turned visibly red as he stiffly peeled me off, yet reached out to ruffle my hair. I spent 3 days at home playing wildly with Milo, almost forgetting I still had to go to kindergarten. It wasn't until Maurice came home from work and saw the neighbor picking up his son that he realized I had been skipping school for several days. He planned to send me to kindergarten, but I didn't want to go. Early in the morning, Maurice's voice came from outside the bed. Margaret, come out. I shrank further under the bed. From this angle, I could see his polished leather shoes pacing impatiently by the bedside. 17 rounds already. If you don't come out in 3 minutes. No cheese sticks today. I covered my mouth. Despicable. How dare you threaten a 3-year-old child with snacks? Milo's tail brushed past my face as it tilted its head to look at me, its black grape-like eyes filled with, I told you hiding here wouldn't work. 5, 4, 3. As I crawled out on all fours, I happened to meet Maurice's gaze as he crouched down. Today he was wearing a black shirt with the collar slightly open, looking exactly like the big bad wolf from cartoons that eats children. Reason. He grabbed the back collar of my pajamas and lifted me up. Why aren't you going to kindergarten? I dangled in midair, kicking my legs. My stomach hurts. Liar. Maurice narrowed his eyes. Just yesterday you said your favorite was the stuffed bunny at kindergarten. I pouted, suddenly feeling my nose sting with tears. That stuffed rabbit named Snowball had long been a mess. Mona cut to pieces. All because I said it was my only friend. Maurice's expression suddenly changed. He placed me on the bed, kneeling on one knee to meet my eye level. Did someone bully you? Milo seized the chance to pop out, his wet nose nuzzling my palm. I lowered my head to play with its ears, my voice quieter than a mosquito's hum. MS. Mona doesn't like me. Why? She said I'm not being good. My fingers unconsciously drew circles on Milo's back. Wouldn't let brother go accompany Aunt Laura. Maurice's pupils abruptly contracted. He reached out to lift my chin, and only then did I realize my tears had already fallen onto Milo's head. Explain clearly. His voice suddenly became very soft, but each word seemed wrapped in ice shards. What did she do to you? I clutched the dinosaur pattern on my pajamas and haltingly recounted those incidents. During nap time, MS. Mona pinched the inside of my thighs, deliberately cut my fingers with scissors in craft class. And the scariest part was, she put caterpillars in my skirt. I shuddered. She said that would make me crawl like a bug to find my brother. Crack. Maurice's phone screen split with a fissure. He called his assistant to investigate. Half an hour later, the assistant rushed into the study with a grim expression. Found it. Mona is Laura's college best friend. But he glanced at me brushing Milo's fur. We don't know why she's targeting Miss Margaret. Maurice's fingers tapped a dangerous rhythm on the desk. Evidence. Assistant handed over a USB drive. Surveillance shows she locked Miss Margaret alone in the storage room at least 3 times. The longest being 2 hours. There are also parent group chat records. She spread rumors that Miss Margaret is the Riley family's illegitimate child. That's why the children in the class isolated her. Suddenly, Maurice picked me up and placed me outside the door. Milo nimbly slipped out to keep me company. Before the door closed, I heard his icy voice. Acquire that kindergarten. By the end of today. What about Mona? Make her disappear from the industry forever. The door opened, and Maurice crouched down with lingering aggression in his demeanor. Yet his hand brushed through my hair as gently as if handling something fragile. "We're not going back to that kindergarten anymore." I threw myself into his arms, catching the faint scent of cedarwood on him. Is this really the villain who commits every evil deed in my dreams? No. He's an angel. "Want to see Milo do some arithmetic?" he suddenly asked. I blinked away tears and nodded vigorously. So that morning, in the Luther family's corporate headquarters office, a bizarre scene unfolded. The king of hell of the business world, Maurice, was squatting on the floor, using cheese sticks to teach a border collie arithmetic. Meanwhile, I sat eating pudding while luring Milo. In the afternoon, Maurice took me to see a psychiatrist. The doctor smiled at him. "This child has stronger psychological resilience than imagined. But, after all, she is Keith's sister. Are you sure you want to raise her?" Morris's shoulders relaxed almost imperceptibly as he walked over and lifted me off the examination table. I seized the chance to slip my icy little hands into his shirt collar for warmth. And surprisingly, he didn't push me away like he usually did. "He doesn't want it, so I'm not allowed to pick it up," Maurice sneered. The doctor sighed helplessly. "Did you ask if the child is willing?" "She's more than willing." Maurice lifted his head proudly. The doctor. Maurice found me a new kindergarten, which was invested by Luther's family group. On the first day of kindergarten, I stood at the classroom door wearing Maurice's personally chosen overalls, because he said it would be more convenient to lift me up this way. "Is that your dad?" the little girl with pigtails asked, pointing out the window. Outside the window, Maurice was speaking coldly to the principal, while several teachers stole glances at him but didn't dare approach. "That's my brother." I puffed out my chest, my voice loud enough for the whole class to hear. "The most amazing brother in the world." The children crowded around in excitement, chattering all at once. "Can he transform? Does he have a lightsaber? Can he kill cockroaches?" I was struggling to come up with a story when the classroom door suddenly opened. Maurice was followed by 5 assistants pushing carts, each piled with stuffed rabbits taller than me. "One for each," he said succinctly. The following scene was comparable to a zombie siege. Over 20 children screamed and rushed toward the pile of rabbits. Standing at the eye of the storm, I was suddenly lifted high into the air. Maurice hoisted me onto his shoulder with one arm. "And there's a circus," he whispered in my ear before raising his voice. "Performance on the playground at 2 in the afternoon." At that moment, I saw unmistakable envy in the eyes of all the children. Little Fatty was so excited that he even fell flat on his bottom, sending the rabbit in his hand flying. During nap time, my little bed was surrounded by new friends offering snacks as tribute. In handicraft class, my deskmate helped me glue the crooked sunflower without being asked. Even when going to the toilet, someone would rush to press the flush button for me. So this is what having friends feels like. It's like carrying pockets full of sunshine, warming you wherever you go. When school ended, I practically leaped into Morris's arms. Brother. Kelly gave me gummy candy. Chubby let me touch his Ultraman. And the teacher even braided my hair. He caught me with one hand while taking my little backpack from the teacher with the other, his eyes slightly crinkling. "Do you like your new teacher?" "Super like." I turned around to show him the little braid on my head, adorned with a shiny ribbon. "Isn't it pretty?" Maurice gently touched the tips of his hair with his fingers, then suddenly pulled something out of his pocket. It's a little mermaid hair clip, its scales shimmering dazzlingly in the sunset. Wow. I was about to reach out when I suddenly remembered something. But, Ms. Mona once said that children who love beauty will turn bad. She would throw away the hair clip on my head, saying I'm not allowed to use my brother's money. Morris's hand paused. The next second, he pulled me into his arms and said, "Listen, even if you wear a rainbow, you're still a good kid." His words were like a key, clicking open a little locked box in my heart. I suddenly wrapped my arms around his neck and buried my face in his shoulder. That way, he wouldn't notice I was crying. When my brother lost his 6th project, he finally ended his business trip and came back. By that time, I had already become the top boss at Starlight Kindergarten. All the kids called me Margaret. The assistant asked Maurice if he wanted to give Keith my address. He scoffed indifferently. If he's sincere, he'll find out naturally. My brother seemed genuinely panicked. He found me within a day. The kindergarten entrance was in complete chaos. Sir, please step back. Miss Pearl spread her arms like a protective mother hen, shielding me behind her while her other hand had already pressed the call button on her phone. Security will be here any moment. My brother's suit was crumpled, with dark circles under his eyes, looking like a panda that had been struck by lightning. He pointed at his own nose in disbelief. I'm her biological brother, Keith. We both share the surname Riley. On the registration form, Margaret S. Guardian isn't you. Miss Pearl stood her ground. If you don't leave now, I'll really call the police. Hiding behind the teacher's skirt, I peeked out to see my brother's expression, which looked as if he had just swallowed a hedgehog whole. It's been a month since I last saw him, and he seems to have lost weight, with stubble on his chin that hasn't been shaved clean. Margaret. He raised his voice. I was just away on a business trip. Not dead. Why don't you recognize me? You've really outdone yourself. Not only did you fire the nanny, but you also learned to run away from home. You're scaring the child. Miss Pearl sharply interrupted. I obediently hunched my shoulders, though inwardly I felt nothing compared to Ms. Mona's caterpillar. What's my brother's little outburst? Margaret, don't be afraid. Suddenly, little Fatty charged over with a glowing lightsaber and poked it hard into my brother's butt. Take this. Ultraman beam. Ouch. My brother jumped up, clutching his butt. Whose brat is this? Kelly seized the opportunity to run out. Margaret, wait. I'll go get my big brother. 3 minutes later, a muscular hulk nearly bursting out of his t-shirt and standing 9 meters tall was Kelly dragged over. The giant was still holding a half-eaten popsicle. Little sis, who's bullying your friend? My brother looked at the human tank before him, his Adam's apple bobbing. Wait. This is a misunder. It's him. Kelly pointed accusingly with righteous indignation. This big bad guy is trying to take Margaret away. Big brother. Beat him up. The muscular man cracked his knuckles menacingly, the joints emitting terrifying pops. My brother instinctively tipped 2 steps back and bumped into Laura, who had just emerged from the car. Keith. What's wrong? Laura was wearing a white dress today, her long straight black hair fluttering in the wind, looking like an innocent little white flower. She covered her mouth in shock at the chaotic scene before her. Oh my God. Miss Margaret has become the big sister boss in kindergarten. I pouted. With her around, my brother definitely wouldn't believe me. Margaret. Only then did my brother notice how the children were addressing me, his anger flaring up instantly. Margaret. Who taught you all this nonsense? Some blonde punk. Laura added fuel to the fire in a timid and weak voice. Children are most prone to picking up bad habits. Miss Margaret must have been led astray by bad company. It was me. A deep voice came from behind the crowd. Everyone turned their heads in unison. Maurice stood with one hand in his pocket, as if he had been there for a while. Milo majestically squatted beside him, still wearing the little bow tie I had tied around his neck that morning. The air instantly froze. Mr. Maurice. My brother's expression was as if he'd seen a ghost. What are you doing here? Maurice walked over leisurely and said casually, picking up the kid. He bent down and picked me up as I lunged forward, his movements so practiced it seemed he'd done it 1,000 times before. Laura suddenly blushed, stepping forward with a coquettish tone. Mr. Maurice, you saved me last time, and I haven't had the chance to properly thank you. Maurice frowned. Last time. It was 2 months ago. At the LT club. She flipped her hair. I accidentally fell down the stairs. And you. My heart skipped a beat. It was also mentioned in the dream that the reason the antagonist kept tripping up the heroine's admirers was because he also had feelings for her. Then, Maurice likes Laura. Would he abandon me too? You've got the wrong person. Maurice interrupted her. then turned to ask Miss Pearl, "Any homework today?" Miss Pearl suddenly realized and hurriedly took out my drawing from her bag. "Margaret drew a family portrait today. On the drawing were clearly Maurice, me, and Milo, two people and a dog, holding hands under a rainbow. In the corner, there was also a stick figure drawn, colored black with a big X over it. That's my brother." My brother's face turned from white to blue to purple, like a human-shaped neon light. With trembling fingers, he pointed at Maurice and said, "So you're the blonde guy who ran off with my sister." Maurice adjusted his gold-rimmed glasses, a cold glint flashing across the lenses. "Riley, need I remind you? You're the one who lost your sister." Milo let out a timely bark, his tail thumping against my brother's pants leg, leaving several distinct marks. "That's not how it is," Laura hastily interjected. "Keith was doing it for work. He also wanted to create a better living environment for Miss Margaret." "Enough," my brother suddenly shouted, startling everyone. With reddened eyes, he looked at me, his voice hoarse beyond recognition. "Margaret, do you really not want your brother anymore?" I wrapped my arms around Morris's neck and suddenly remembered that birthday from a few days ago. I sat on the stairs in a princess dress all night, while my brother was watching a movie with Laura. Back then, I also called and asked him like this, "Brother, are you really not going to celebrate Margaret's birthday?" But he hung up the phone before even finishing the conversation. A tear fell uncontrollably, landing on Maurice's shoulder. I felt his arm tighten a little. "Keith." Morris's voice carried rare emotion. "You scared the child." That sentence was like a knife, piercing straight through my brother's defenses. He staggered back 2 steps and was Laura who caught him before he fell. "Let's go home." Maurice held me and turned to leave. Milo trotted along to keep up. After arriving home, I was distracted, worrying both that Maurice also liked Laura, and that he would eventually kick me out. I didn't even notice Milo secretly standing up and stealing my cheese stick. Maurice knocked on my little head after seeing me. "What are you thinking about? With a brain the size of a walnut. What kind of worries could you possibly have?" I mustered up my courage. "Brother, do you like Aunt Laura?" "No one dislikes her. My brother likes her. Ms. Mona likes her. And so do my brother's good friends. They said they've never seen such a kind and diligent girl before." I told my brother that I don't like her. My brother lectured me, saying I've been spoiled and lack the capacity to tolerate others. But my stomach can only hold 5 cheese sticks. How could it possibly hold such a big Laura? Maurice handed me another cheese stick, stuffing it into my mouth. "She's not made of gold. Why would I like her?" "He doesn't like Laura either." "Wait. That can't be right. In the dream, it said he liked her a lot." I tilted my head in confusion. "But you saved her." "At the time, she was walking in front of me, climbing the stairs as slow as a turtle, and wearing 10-centimeter high heels. When she fell, it was like a brick coming down. If I hadn't caught her, she would have used me as a cushion." "I'm not stupid." It suddenly dawned on me. "But she's ambitious. Don't you like that?" "Maurice, who told you she's ambitious?" "My brother did. I counted on my fingers. He said she's working while doing her master's degree, and often stays up late working on proposals." Maurice helped me throw the stick of the cheese stick into the trash and wiped his mouth. "One night 2 months ago, she went to meet President Jimmy of GY Media. Do you know what she was wearing?" I shook my head. Milo also cooperatively tilted his head. "A short skirt and a low-cut, off-shoulder blouse." Maurice said with a mocking tone. "And what kind of person is Jimmy?" "A notorious old pervert in the industry. He's even had his office sofa replaced 3 times. My eyes widened in shock. My brother never mentioned this before. "True ambition," he said, pinching my cheek leisurely, "is about understanding the preferences and taboos of your partners in advance. Coming to negotiations with a complete plan and bottom line. Not by showing off your legs. That's not called ambition. That's called stupidity." "Me. That's a lot to take in." My brother praised Laura to the skies. So how did it turn into a dumb move when it came to Maurice? So, did she manage to close the deal in the end? I asked quietly. Maurice sneered. She was forced to drink 3 bottles of Baijiu, and the contract ended up being a 30-70 split. She got 30. I don't understand, but I know that 3 is less than 7. On the 5th day after school, my brother was standing at the kindergarten gate again. This time, he was wearing casual clothes, holding a cake box in one hand and a pink teddy bear in the other. The sunlight stretched his shadow long, making him look somewhat lonely. Margaret. He immediately crouched down and opened his arms upon seeing me. Guess what Big Brother brought for you? I walked over slowly, Milo pressing tightly against my leg. Ever since Maurice started personally picking me up from school, my brother has been showing up every day to, coincidentally, meet us, acting like some persistent ex. Mango milk crepe. My brother proudly opened the box, the golden cake emitting a sickly sweet aroma. Your favorite. I stared at the golden slice of mango on the cake and took a step back. I can't eat mango. It makes me itch. My brother's smile froze on his face. What? Eating mango makes my body itch. I repeated slowly, word by word. My face will swell up like a pig's head. The cake box fell to the ground with a thud. My brother's face turned deathly pale. Impossible. How could you be allergic to mangoes? When you were little, you clearly, Margaret, you used to love mangoes the most. Laura's voice suddenly cut in. She was wearing a canary yellow dress today, looking like a mango herself. Keith waited in line for 2 hours especially for this. Pouting pitifully, I said, MS. Mona knows mangoes make me itchy. Why didn't she say anything then? My brother's voice began to tremble. Because she said I was being overly sensitive. MS. Mona loved secretly putting mango juice in my food. After my face swelled up like a pig's head, she'd take photos with her phone and post them in the group chat. Said I had a contagious disease. My brother's hand was trembling violently. The nanny didn't tell me either. She gave me a pill. Said I'd be fine after sleeping. By the time you came home, the swelling was already gone. Memories came flooding back like a tide. That day, I curled up on the bathroom floor, my breath wheezing like a bellows, while the nanny's laughter from watching funny videos in the living room pierced through the door. When my brother finally came back, I only had time to say the word, mango, before the nanny interrupted. The child is greedy and must have eaten something they're allergic to. We've already given them medicine. It's fine now. Margaret, your brother really didn't know. My brother's eyes reddened as he tried to hug me, but was Milo blocked by bared teeth. Laura stood awkwardly to the side. Maybe it was a misdiagnosis. My cousin's child was also said to be allergic, but it turned out to be psychological. My brother hesitated. He doesn't believe me. Do you need me to take a bite right now to prove it? I said even more aggrievedly, pointing at the cake on the ground. No need. Maurice emerged from the classroom holding my little blanket in one hand and scooped me up with the other. Looking down at my brother. Whether he believes you or not is your brother's business, not yours. There's no need to hurt yourself for someone who doesn't believe in you. My brother staggered as if struck by lightning. Little Fatty suddenly rushed out of the kindergarten, holding up the clay artwork he made in today's craft class. Margaret, look at the Milo I made. It was a lopsided dog's head, with 2 shiny buttons for eyes. I took it and deliberately said loudly, so amazing. 100 times better than some ugly bear someone bought. The teddy bear in my brother's hand instantly lost its appeal. He probably doesn't know that my room is now filled with Morris's limited edition teddy bears, in all colors imaginable. Keith, let's go first. Laura tugged at my brother's sleeve. Margaret doesn't seem to want. Shut up. My brother suddenly exploded in anger, shaking off her hand. You clearly told me that, MS. Mona said Margaret loves mangoes the most. Laura took 2 steps back in fright, her eyes instantly reddening. I might have remembered wrong. Maurice held me and got into the car without looking back. As the car door closed, I saw my brother kneeling on the ground picking up the smashed mango cake, while Laura stood aside, her gaze drifting toward Maurice in the car. Milo enthusiastically licked my face, and I took the chance to wipe my tears on his furry neck. Maurice glanced at me in the rearview mirror without asking anything, simply turning on the warm air from the AC. Maurice. I called him softly. I want to eat cheese sticks. The car stopped at a red light, and he turned to hand me an insulated bag containing 6 neatly arranged cheese sticks, along with an ice pack inside. Maurice knows I don't like the melted texture. My hand suddenly paused while unwrapping the package. How did you know I'd want to eat this? Maurice adjusted his glasses and said matter-of-factly, You always crave this after crying. Milo let out a bark beside us, signaling agreement. I bit into the cheese stick, gazing at the scenery rapidly receding outside the window. In the rearview mirror, my brother's figure grew smaller and smaller, eventually turning into a faint black dot before disappearing around the corner. That very night, Maurice packaged all the evidence of the abuse by the nanny and Ms. Mona and sent it to my brother. I heard that he immediately fired Laura from the company and decided to sue both the nanny and Ms. Mona. My brother's friends all accused him of slandering Laura, saying those were things others had done. Laura had no idea about it at all. One of his friends, Laura Moo, took in Laura and even punched my brother, calling him a jerk. In my dream, Laura Moo was the male lead. He also has a fiancée, and she's really beautiful. On the weekend, while I was at home playing ball with Milo, Maurice suddenly glanced out the window and said my brother was here. I uncomfortably kicked the carpet. What's he here for? Probably looking for trouble, Maurice said coolly. I shrank my neck. Looking for trouble? What's that? Maurice opened the door. I almost didn't recognize my brother standing at the door. Always meticulous. His shirt was crumpled, his mouth bruised, and his eyes bloodshot. Where was the domineering CEO image now? Margaret. My brother's voice was terrifyingly hoarse. Maurice blocked the doorway. She doesn't want to see you. To my surprise, my brother didn't lose his temper but pleaded softly. Please, let me talk to her. On what grounds? Maurice sneered. Because you abandoned her to an abusive nanny, or because you chose some woman over your own sister. His fists clenched until they turned white, but suddenly relaxed the next second. You're right. My brother raised his hand to wipe his face, a gesture that made him look oddly like a lost child. I'm not a good brother. Hiding at the staircase corner, I froze for a moment. In my memory, my brother has always been the type to hold his chin high and look down his nose at people. During the last boardroom coup, he managed to silence the old-timers while casually brewing tea. When have we ever seen him like this? So meek and submissive. Milo suddenly raised his head and sniffed in my direction, making me quickly shrink back. Just then, a warm drop of water landed on the back of my hand. I stared blankly at that teardrop. Ha! When did I start crying? Downstairs Maurice continued his tirade. Since you know, then transfer the guardian rights to me. Mr. Maurice. She's my only sister. My brother pleaded. His voice suddenly choked, as if someone had grabbed him by the throat. Through the railing, I saw him blink hard, his eyelashes wet. It was her birthday that day. I promised to have cake with her. My heart suddenly gave a violent twitch, dull and aching. Margaret. My brother suddenly looked up and called toward the staircase. Having known all along that I was peeking, I was wrong. Instinctively, I covered my ears, but the motion threw off my balance, causing me to plop down onto the floor with a thud. Milo immediately barked and dashed upstairs, revealing my hiding spot. Oh no. Oh no. I scrambled to my feet while rubbing my sore bottom, only to meet those reddened eyes glaring up from below. Maurice sighed and stepped aside to make a gap. 5 minutes. I dawdled my way downstairs, Milo sticking close to my leg like a bodyguard. I stopped when there were 3 steps left. From this height, I could just meet my crouching brother's gaze at eye level. The bruise at the corner of his mouth was worse than I had imagined. already turning a frightening shade of purple red. I couldn't help but reach out with my tiny hand, only to pull it back just before touching him. Does it hurt? It doesn't hurt. Margaret. My brother cautiously extended his hand, as if afraid he might break me. Come home with me. Okay. I stared at his outstretched palm. When my parents divorced, neither of them wanted me. I stumbled out crying, chasing after them, and clung to my mother's leg, only to be kicked away by her, nearly getting hit by a car. It was my brother who pulled me back in time and shielded me under his body. His hand was fractured at the time. My brother said, "None of you want Margaret." "I do. I'll take care of her for life." Now this fool who promised to take care of me for a lifetime, after losing me, knelt at someone else's doorstep, his lips bruised, begging for my forgiveness. Idiot. I threw myself into his arms, smearing all my tears onto his crumpled shirt. You utter fool. My brother's arms froze midair, and only after several seconds did they gently encircle me. I heard irregular tremors from his chest, like suppressed sobs. I promise. His chin rested on the top of my head, his voice hoarse beyond recognition. Never again. Standing nearby, Maurice suddenly cleared his throat. I looked up and saw him pointing expressionlessly at his watch. 5 minutes are up. Mr. Maurice, could you let me stay with Margaret a little longer? Maurice asked if I should forgive my brother. I hesitated, took a step back, and held Maurice's hand. Depends on your performance, the teacher said. If you can correct your mistakes, you're still a good child. But in my dream, when my brother heard that Laura was getting married, he almost committed suicide. After being saved, he gave all his family property to Laura as a wedding gift. My brother nodded excitedly repeatedly. Margaret, no one can compare to your importance in my heart. Wait for me. I will definitely bring you back home. Maurice. Humph. Milo. Woof. Ever since my brother had an epiphany and decided to be a good older brother, my kindergarten life has become extraordinarily exciting. On Monday morning, just as I reached the kindergarten gate, I was stopped by a 2-meter-tall Pikachu. The yellow electric mouse clumsily crouched down and pulled out a box of limited edition chocolates from the pouch on its belly. Margaret, good morning, came my brother's muffled voice from inside the Pikachu costume. The next second, he was already being pulled aside by enthusiastic parents for group photos. Margaret. Little Fatty came running over excitedly. Is this your family's Pikachu? So cool. The Pikachu immediately turned to Little Fatty and pulled out a handful of imported candies from the small backpack on its rear. Little Fatty's cheers attracted half the class of kids, and soon my brother was surrounded. He began distributing the gifts. Your brother. The teacher looked at the scene, hesitating to speak further. Quite childlike. Ha! I was about to cover my face in embarrassment when I suddenly caught sight of a black Maybach parked across the street. The car window slowly rolled down, revealing Morris's face with its faintly mocking smile. He raised an eyebrow at me, then released a remote-controlled helicopter from the car window. The helicopter landed precisely in front of us, its cabin carrying the latest art set. The kids instantly abandoned Pikachu, screaming as they rushed toward the helicopter. Pikachu froze in place, and I could almost picture my brother gritting his teeth inside the mascot costume. Childish, I muttered under my breath, yet couldn't resist tiptoeing to reach for the helicopter. Ah, I really love drawing. On Tuesday, my brother upgraded his gear. He dressed up as Spider-Man and performed a handstand walk on the kindergarten wall. Little Fatty and the others looked up, their mouths agape enough to fit an egg. Margaret. Spider-Man waved at me while hanging upside down. Look what Big Brother brought for you. He flicked out a fishing line, lowering down a box of Lego Snow White. The children gasped in amazement. Just as my brother was feeling smug, a roaring sound suddenly came from the sky. We looked up and saw 5 drones flying in formation, each carrying a small package underneath. The drones hovered precisely in front of each child, and inside the packages were customized glowing cartoon watches. Mine was extra large, with a Lego Disney castle hidden inside. Spider-Man stumbled a bit on the wall. On Wednesday, my brother finally gave up on cosplay and went for a more down-to-earth approach. Dressed in casual clothes, he personally handed out animal-shaped cupcakes to the whole class. Each cake had a chocolate plaque with a child's name on it. Margaret's cake is specially made. He whispered to me as he crouched down. Your favorite strawberry milfie. I was about to be moved when I suddenly caught a whiff of an enticing aroma. At the kindergarten entrance, a cotton candy machine had somehow appeared. Maurice was rolling up his sleeves to make cartoon cotton candy for the children. Margaret, Chubby, came running over holding a cotton candy. Look. Mine is Iron Man. My brother stared at Morris's incredibly lifelike Elsa Princess cotton candy. His face darker than a durian. Childish. He snorted coldly, then turned to ask me, Margaret, which one do you want to eat? I'll buy you 10. I looked at the cotton candy, then at the cake, and suddenly had a brilliant idea. I want to eat the cotton candy on top of the cake. The two men froze simultaneously. Thursday's conflict escalated into the realm of puzzle toys. Maurice sent a 3D puzzle, so my brother sent a world map jigsaw. Maurice sent arithmetic cards, and my brother responded with a globe. Margaret, little Chubby, came to me with a puzzle, looking miserable. How do I put this together? I have no idea either. But to maintain my image, I patted little Chubby's shoulder with feigned wisdom. My brother said these are for 2-year-olds. You're already 4. Big kids now. How can you not know how? Little Chubby walked away, on the verge of tears. Still clutching the puzzle, the teacher stood by, rubbing his forehead in exasperation. On Friday, the war finally reached its climax. My brother somehow got hold of a small pony and announced that the whole class could ride it. Just as the children were lining up for their turn, Maurice showed up driving a miniature convertible toy car. Get in the car. Maurice waved at me. Let's go for a ride. My brother picked me up in one swift motion. Margaret wants to ride the pony. Want to drive. Ride the pony. Drive. I was being pulled back and forth between the two of them until I couldn't take it anymore. I want to drive while riding a horse. The entire place fell silent for 3 seconds. In the end, the pony was tied to the back of a toy car, and I sat in the car driving while the little horse leisurely followed along. The children lined up to take turns experiencing this bizarre combination, as joyful as if they were celebrating a holiday. After school, holding Maurice with my left hand and my brother with my right, I suddenly felt this wasn't so bad. Will you come again tomorrow? I asked, looking up at them. The two men exchanged a glance and answered in unison. Yes. On the weekend, my brother took me to the amusement park again to make up for my birthday. Maurice cancelled the banquet and insisted on coming along. But unexpectedly, we ran into Laura at the amusement park. She was slapped by a pretty young woman. I instinctively looked at my brother. He only tightened his grip on my hand but didn't let go. Margaret, do you want some ice cream? Without even looking up, my brother gazed at me tenderly. Mr. Maurice. Laura's eyes lit up as if spotting a savior. She darted over, nimbly weaving past me and my brother, and directly hid behind Maurice. She coquettishly tugged at his sleeve, her voice trembling with just the right amount of fragility. I don't know why Miss suddenly rushed over to hit me. Me. Seems like no one cares. Right. Maurice frowned and pulled back his sleeve. What does that have to do with me? Laura's expression instantly cracked like a fissure. The corner of her mouth twitched, her gaze finally landing on me and my brother as if noticing us for the first time. Keith. Laura's eyes reddened in an instant. Have you been doing all right lately? My brother stood beside me, his entire body taut like a tightly drawn bowstring. The bright red slap mark on her left cheek was strikingly conspicuous, yet she stubbornly lifted her head high, resembling an unyielding white lotus. Have you made up with Miss Margaret? Laura said softly. It was all a misunderstanding. As long as Miss Margaret forgives you, even if you never contact me again, I don't mind. My brother's Adam's apple bobbed as he was about to speak, but I suddenly tugged at his sleeve. Brother, I want ice cream. Great. Big brother will go buy it for Margaret right now. My brother turned around to leave. Laura quickly stepped forward and said anxiously, Keith, I have something I want to talk to you about alone. I immediately clung to my brother's leg. No. You promised to buy me ice cream. To my surprise, my brother actually reached out and ruffled my hair, saying calmly to Laura, whatever you have to say, say it here. Laura's eyes instantly welled up with tears. I know you're still angry with me, but I truly didn't know Mona would treat Margaret like that. She suddenly crouched down, trying to touch my face. Margaret, let big sister apologize to you. Okay. I quickly hid behind my brother. Maurice suddenly stepped forward, blocking the space between us and Laura. Miss Laura, I suggest you handle your own matters first. At that moment, the beautiful young woman glanced at us with a half smile and tossed a phone in our direction. Miss Laura, you dropped something. Laura fumbled to catch it, her face suddenly turning deathly pale. The beautiful young woman sneered. The unlocked password is Laura Moo's birthday, and the album contains quite the spectacle. I made a copy to study it myself, to learn how Miss Laura seduces someone else's fiancé. That's not true. Laura hurried to explain. These photos are. You wouldn't dare say it's peas, would you? The stunning young woman unleashed her full aura. Feel free to verify its authenticity. Also, Laura Moo isn't so bored as to want to accompany you to an amusement park. That's for kids. I was the one who used his phone to invite you. I just wanted to see which pathetic, ugly creature was trying to trip me up behind my back. Our engagement has been called off. Congratulations. You can take my place now, but you'd better hide those 5 men you're keeping on the side. Laura's face was a mix of joy and embarrassment as she tightly gripped her phone and hurriedly left. After that day at the amusement park, she seemed to vanish from my brother's world. The last time I saw Laura, she stood in the pouring rain, blocking my brother's car, demanding that he fulfill his promise to her. Keith, when you worked overtime until you had a stomach hemorrhage, it was me who took you to the hospital. You said you would repay me. My brother didn't get out of the car, just cracked the window open slightly and looked at her coldly. What do you want? Laura gritted her teeth in resentment. The Laura family looks down on me for being poor. They despise me. Old Madame Laura even said I'm worthless. If I had enough resources, I could marry Laura Moo with my head held high. Fine. My brother agreed immediately. She curled her lips in disbelief. You really agreed to me. Can you move aside now? My brother dropped me off at Maurice's place and then hurriedly left. I was so angry I couldn't eat dinner, and spent an hour ranting to Milo about my brother. Milo doesn't understand, but every time my brother's name is mentioned, it grumbles and barks in response. Maurice tempted me with a lollipop. Sweetie, let's change to another brother. Okay. I wrapped my arms around his neck and nodded gloomily. I don't want him anymore. At the break of dawn, Maurice let my brother in with a displeased look on his face. He handed me a thick stack of documents and shoved them all at me. Margaret, your big brother will be relying on you from now on. What does this mean? I was so shocked that I forgot to push him away. I've transferred all the assets under my name to you. Once you come of age, you can manage them as you please. Big brother only has $1 left on him now. He let out a sigh of relief, as if he had accomplished something monumental. I was stunned. He gave me all the family property. At the time, Laura actually went to unnecessary trouble. After I had a stomach hemorrhage, my assistant had already called an ambulance immediately, and it was almost there. Yet she insisted on pulling me into a taxi, taking a detour to send me to a hospital in the suburbs. Later, I gave her a lot of help at work and even gifted her an apartment. I've done more than enough. There's no way I'm giving away my sister's belongings too. My mood instantly improved. Does this count as changing the dream? My brother is still my brother. He didn't commit suicide, nor has he fallen into destitution. He's standing right beside me, alive and well, even able to bicker with Maurice. Humph. Maurice suddenly let out a chilly snort. pulling my wandering thoughts back to reality. I turned my head to see my brother rubbing his hands together, fawningly leaning toward Maurice. So, now that the misunderstanding is cleared up, how about we have breakfast together? Maurice raised an eyebrow. The Riley family's conglomerate went bankrupt. Not exactly. My brother rubbed his nose. It's just, since you're already here, and you've prepared so much, we can't possibly finish it all. Wasting food is shameful. Maurice looked down at me and muttered, I only picked up one. How did it turn into a big one? Remember to pay for the meal. My brother immediately wailed, you know I'm the most strapped for cash. 2 months later, the Laura family's wedding even invited me and Maurice. My family has a nanny, but the female lead is an orphan. Upon hearing it was only $1, he went berserk and charged over. How could it be just $1? You promised me returns. I only have $1 left on me. Now the one who calls the shots in our family is Margaret. My brother picked me up. Miss Laura, who do you think you are? Asking for my entire fortune. Even if I really die, I've already made a will. Everything in the Riley family belongs to Margaret. Laura turned pale and collapsed to the ground in an instant. That wedding banquet was said to be quite lively. Rich people are no fools. Laura among the 5 sycophants around her. The only one who truly controls the family fortune is my brother. The others either have their parents holding the reins of the household, or they're just the youngest, powerless rich kids living off their family's wealth. Having an extra brother has made my daily life exceptionally lively. My brother and Maurice kept stealing me back and forth. In the end, I decided, we're living together. Milo can't stand my brother, sneaking into his room every day to steal his clothes and underwear. What wakes me up in the morning isn't an alarm clock. Instead, it was my brother's heart-wrenching roar. Maurice, control your stupid dog. Quick, lend me a new pair of underwear. I'm going to be late for work. Maurice, get lost. END.